Good evening, brothers and sisters. This is Dr. Makemba. Thank you for once again joining us on this platform. We invite you to engage with us. Today we are going to continue with our Wonders of Wisdom series. We will be talking about yet another very interesting subject matter. We will be talking about ignorance. We are going to be looking at some aspects surrounding ignorance and how to go about overcoming ignorance. Let's first start off by defining what ignorance is. Basically, ignorance is simply put as lack of knowledge or understanding, or lacking information concerning any subject matter. Now, one need to understand that ignorance is one of those most dangerous things, and we always suffer the most in the areas that we are ignorant in. In life, you basically learn primarily through two main streams. These main streams are either mentors or mistakes. Now, mentors are individuals that you have deemed to be more matured, more experienced, or individuals who are excelling in any area that you yourself desire to excel in. Now, what a mentor does to you is he trains you, he teaches you, he grooms you up. He often opens up himself to you. He teaches you about the pitfalls that he has to go through in life, and he sort of guide you so that you do not end up repeating the same mistakes. And also through mentorship, you get to your destination very quick with relative ease, and throughout the process you don't end up hurting yourself and hurting others. That is one stream of learning. Now, if you are foolish enough and you ignore mentorship, you have to learn through mistakes. Either ways, you will have to learn through one of them. Now, individuals that refuse to be mentored, individuals that refuse to be trained up, individuals that refuse to be groomed, unfortunately have to go through life making their own mistakes and learning from their own mistake. And of course, learning through mistake is the hardest way to learn, because what then happens is that you have to be, hitting your head against a hard wall all the time, and then you have to be recollecting and doing it over again. So don't be ignorant, get yourself a mentor and learn from a mentor. In the Bible, we learn in the book of 2 Corinthians 2 verse 11 that the devil takes advantage of our ignorance. In fact, the Bible says that we are not ignorant of his devices, lest he take advantage of us. In other words, the enemy of your faith, the enemy of your progress, will always delight in taking advantage of you in areas that you are ignorant in. And then he will panel beat you nicely in every area that you are ignorant in. But as soon as you get to learn something, of course, you overcome the painful hurts that comes with life. Now, in life, a lot of things can happen through ignorance. For instance, let me just give you a few examples. People divorce, for instance, because they have not learned that one of the key things to making it in marriage is forgiveness. And if you are not willing to forgive, then you are not ready for any marriage. Why? Because it's part of the package. We are not perfect. People make mistakes. Of course, I'm not suggesting that you should subject yourself to being abused, to being walked over and taken advantage of. But a lot of people walk away from good things simply because of one mistakes. And they are not willing to forgive and to work on things. So if you are ignorant of the concept of forgiveness, for instance, you are likely not to succeed in any relationship. Politicians collapse their countries and their economies because they are ignorant of the fact that only a system that is built on honesty and justice and fairness will stand the test of time. So what do? They take shortcuts, they become corrupt, and when they allow that in their system, the very corruption becomes a cancer that really eats up the very moral fiber of the society and end up collapsing the nation. Society collapse. Why? Because we are ignorant of the importance of a stable, family structure, for instance. If you are not building stable families, we, raise up, unstable children that will become unstable adults that will establish unstable relationship, and then society become unstable, for instance. Individual that goes into business, they collapse their businesses. Why? Because they refuse to have mentors to guide them in how to run the businesses. They do not acquire skills that it takes, to make the business stand the test of time. They don't learn how to manage their cash flow, and then they end up collapsing their businesses. So ignorance is very dangerous. Individuals that, are ignorant of eating healthy diet, for instance, they plague themselves with all kinds of manner of food that they eat. They end up with, cholesterol problems. They end up with sugar issues. Later, they develop diabetes, hypertension, because they are ignorant of a healthy diet, for instance. Ignorance is very, very dangerous. These are but just, to mention a few. Young people, for instance, they destroy their own future. Why? Because they get caught up in this whole syndrome of I'm still young, I'm enjoying my life, I'm not going to listen to anybody, I'll just do me, come as you go. And then by the time now they think they are old enough to make the right decision, they've already destroyed that very future they were hoping for in the days when they were young. There's a saying that there's a difference between enjoying your youth and destroying your future. So if you are ignorant that you will not be young forever, you will end up, behaving as though you will not grow up one day. Then one day when you are now old enough and you realize there's more to life than being young, guess what? You might have made decisions that unfortunately will cost you the rest of your days. So these are things that we really need to be very mindful of, and we need to understand that ignorance is one of those things that we cannot just allow to plague our life. Now, let's quickly look at how do one deal with ignorance. How do I deal with ignorance? Okay, the only way to dispel ignorance is knowledge. In any area of your life where you deem yourself to be ignorant in, is the area in your life you need to acquire as much knowledge as you can. So if you want to overcome certain traits, decision-making processes that have cost you, be it your own happiness, be it friendship, be it relationship, be it finance, you need to educate yourself in those areas. And then, of course, you don't just heap up knowledge. You want to get practical knowledge. In other words, you go and, gain knowledge. Your quest should be after knowledge that you can put to use. Because, knowledge that I cannot use is as good as not having it at all. So what you then do is you train yourself up, you read materials that will sort of, influence your thinking pattern. And of course, when your thinking pattern is influenced in a particular way, it is out of that same thinking pattern decisions are made. Then you end up making decisions that are better, decisions that will make you a better person, decisions that will grow you, decisions that are likely to also preserve your own life, because of course, if I now know I gotta eat well in order to, be healthy and live longer, guess what, there are probably certain food items that I will probably stop eating altogether or in minimal consumption. In other words, I moderate so that, I don't end up causing myself problems. Now, if I have financial difficulties, I got to learn the strategies on how to get out of debts and how to stay out of debts. If maybe, you tend to get happy fingers every time you got money and you just can't seem to stop shopping, you have to be honest with yourself and say, look, do I really need to buy these things? And when I bought these things, are they really making me a better person? Or I'm just, gobbling up things, to sort of stir up my emotions, And then when you learn that, you probably don't need these things, guess what? You end up spending your money a little different, and probably you end up saving much more than you would or you did in the past. And that will also preserve you in the area of your finances. When it comes to relationship, be just relationship with human beings in general, friendship, love relationships, so you got to understand what you want out of life. And when you have determined that this is where I want to be and this is what I desire to get out of life, you gotta sort of find people that sort of have a similar mindset, that see life similar to the way you see life. Guess what? Because then when you're in that company of people, there's a saying that birds of the same feathers, they flock together. So it makes life easy for you. You can sort of anticipate the next person's move because you sort of, somehow see life in a similar way. and it becomes easier for you to grow within that circle of people or the circle of friends, or that those kind of relationships then tend to grow you. Why? Because they are based on value systems and the manner in which both of you and your outlook on life is sort of similar, and then you're able to grow together like that. So we need to really understand that being ignorant is very dangerous, very painful. It will cost you. It will destroy you. It can even potentially cut your life short. So this is your brother, Dr. Makemba, and I just want you to, think about, this little clip that we shared with you today. Think about your own life, and, go out there, acquire as much knowledge as you can. Make sure it's practical knowledge, and acquire it with the purpose of putting it to use. And as you put it to use, guess what? Ignorance will be dispelled from your life, and your life will get better with time, I love you. Take care. Till we meet again. Tata.